Good morning, investors. Now today we're going to be taking a quick look at the new viewing planner that's available in PropertyEngine. This new viewing planner is going to save you so much time because it tells you exactly when to book your viewings for, and it helps you cram as many viewings as possible into one day. You can see it here, suggesting times that I booked viewings for. This is based on the quickest possible way to get between all of those viewings. And it's super flexible as well. If you want to do back-to-back viewings with an agent, you can do that. And if agents can't do the times that PropertyEngine has suggested, that's also not a problem. You can go in here and it will suggest other times to you and the best times to do those viewings for. Now let's dive in. I'm going to show you how to set this up and how pretty soon you will be saving tons of time by booking viewings as well. Okay, so before we get started with the viewing planner, I need to find some properties that I'd like to book viewings for. So I'm going to head over to my interested list of properties. So I can get to that really quickly by just going to properties and then viewing my interested label here. And that's going to show me all properties that I've labeled as interested. Now, I've already looked at these very briefly. This one here has been sold subject to contracts since I last looked at it. So we'll get started with the ones underneath it here. We'll book viewings for these ones. So if we click on this one here, we're looking at 4 Church Lane here. Now, in order to get this into the viewing planner, all you've got to do is just press on this over here, plan a viewing. Now, when you go onto here, you're going to get a calendar where you can choose which day you'd like to book a viewing for. Don't worry if you're not sure about what day you want to do. Just choose anything, and it's really easy to change your mind later. But I know that I want to try and get all of my viewings in on Wednesday next week, so I'm going to choose Wednesday. So it's telling me here, no other viewings on this day, and that's because this will be the first one. So now it says viewing planned on Wednesday the 18th of March. It's telling me here to go to my planner to see the times, but before we do that, I'm just going to add a few more properties. So I'm going to keep working my way down this interested list here and add these to Wednesday. You can see here there's the blue dot, which indicates that there's viewings booked on that day, so I can just view these as well. I'm just going to add a couple more. You can see here it's telling you the day as well that you've planned the viewing for. Excellent. Now that we've got a few properties added to the planner, let's head over there to have a look at what our day's looking like. Now, before PropertyEngine can suggest times for our viewings, we need to tell it when we want to leave and where we're driving from. So that can be where you live. If you're staying over somewhere, it could be a hotel or something. So for me, I'm just going to put in Bristol. And I want to arrive at my first viewing by 10 o'clock. Now you can see here that we've got a calendar on the left with times for all of the viewings, and we've got a map here and it's showing us where all of our viewings are, and the blue line is where you would drive to get to all of them. And you can zoom in here, you can see the times, which one's your first viewing, second, third and fourth. Now these times on the left are just suggested times. It's times that PropertyEngine has told us this is the best time to book this viewing based on how long it takes to drive and get between all of those properties. So now that we can see these times, I'm going to go ahead and add a few more properties to this day before we start to really get into it. I'm going to go back over to my list here and I'm going to view a few more. So plan a viewing, Wednesday the 18th, view this property. Now, because we went into the planner and put in where we're driving from and what time, it's now able to tell us the suggested times right here in the property list. You can even book that time in and lock it in right here, but we're just going to add a few more properties first. I want this day to be chock-a-block viewings. And this will be our last one, I think. Excellent. So we've got 8 viewings, including this one here that I've just added. So let's head back over to the planner to have a look at what our day's looking like. So you can see here on the map, we've got a lot more properties now that we're viewing. And our calendar has a lot more going on. And it's telling us how long it takes to drive and how many miles it is between each viewing as well, which is really handy. Now what you want to try and do is phone these agents and book the times that PropertyEngine is telling you here, because this is the most efficient route for your day. However, you're probably thinking that the agents might not be able to do those times. So that is why the viewing planner is really flexible in working with any time that you want to do the viewings. I would work my way through these one by one now and call the agents. So if I start with the first one here, that's 10 o'clock. If I call the agent and say, look, can you do 10 o'clock on Wednesday? And they say, yes, that's not a problem, then that's great. I can just press this, book suggested time, and that is now locked in, it's booked, it's not going to move. That is when I'm viewing that property. Now let's go to the second one, and I'm calling the agent, and I'm saying, can you do 10:45? If they say no, then that's not a problem. So we can see all of the other times here in the day and how much of an impact, if I view this property at that time, how much of an impact that will have on my day. So when the agent says, oh, can you do 1 o'clock? I'd have a look here at 1 o'clock and I'd say, oh, that's going to lengthen my day quite a bit. Is it possible you could do maybe 11:50 or half 11? So let's say they go with 11:50. Excellent. We'll choose 11:50 there and we'll save that. Now, when I save that, that has been booked down here, and you can see that PropertyEngine has reshuffled all of the other viewings that I haven't yet booked to make the most of the day and make sure that I'm not sitting around. Now, what's happened here is because these two properties here are with the same agent, it's split it out to another column, so it makes it really easy to see the agents that have, multiple properties that you're going to be viewing with them. Now, this is really handy for when you're making the phone calls, because you can just call the first one and you can see straight away that they've also got this property with them, so you can book both of them in on the same phone call, and you're not calling the agent twice as you work your way down the list. But what some agents like to do as well, or it might work for you, is do back-to-back viewings or group viewings. So PropertyEngine allows you to do that as well. So all you've got to do here is press on this group viewings and it will do those viewings back to back. And it's telling you that by doing group viewings, it's going to add 5 minutes to your day and your journey is going to be 1.5 miles longer. But that's not a problem, it's only 5 minutes. So if I check this here, you can see now that it's reshuffled it again, and you can see now that these viewings are back to back, all with the same agent. And if you had other agents as well that had a few properties in the planner, they would appear next to it here. So I've booked in this one here, I've booked in this one at 11:50. So now what I'm going to try and do is book this one at 10:35 with Oatman's estate agents. So I'm going to call them up and I'm going to mention both properties because I want to view both of them. So I phone them up and I'm saying, can you do 10:35? And maybe they say 10:35 is fine, but they want to do Pershore Road first and then we'll go over to Selly Oak. So that's fine as well. What we'll do is go back over here to Pershore Road and we'll click on this and it's going to tell us all the times. Now, I actually can't do 10:35 at Pershore Road because there's a problem here. And what it's saying here is that the time is going to make me late to some of my other viewings. I'm going to arrive at Braymore Road at 11:55 instead of 11:50. So what that means is if I choose 10:35, let's actually choose it to see what happens. This will reshuffle up here. But because of the time it takes to drive between them, the distance between this one and this one means that I'm going to be late to this viewing. So the viewing planner has worked that all out for you. It's telling you you're going to be late. That is why it puts Selly Oak first, because the distance allowed for this time to still be booked. So when I'm on the phone to the agent, I'm going to say, look, I can't do 10:35, but maybe let's do 10:30. Yep, okay. So we can book in 10:30. This then moves up, and I can now make my viewing at Braymore Road at 11:50. And we're going to do back-to-back viewing, so I'm just going to book this in as well. So let's continue making our way down the list. I've booked all of these in, so I'm going to call up Prime Estates with Church Lane here. Can you do 12:15? If they say yes, that's great. I'll just book that in. Court Lane, 12:50. Now, let's say they can't do 12:50. Okay, so what times can you do? Again, I can see all of the different times here and how much of an impact that's going to have on my day. Now, I can't do any of these times up here because obviously I've booked in those other viewings. I'm either going to be late or it's going to overlap with one of my other viewings. And you can see here that it's really clear that that's the case. So there's no way that you're going to book a viewing in over another one. So they can't do 12:50. So I'd be saying, can you do 1 o'clock, 1:15? as we start going down here, it's really adding a lot of time to my day, so I'd rather not go with any of those times. Yeah, okay, so they can do 1:15, so I'm going to select that there. Perfect. Now, that's just all moved down because it's not possible to cram in another viewing between these two, so that's why it was telling me it's going to add another 15-20 minutes to my day. So let's continue going down here. 2 o'clock, Reservoir Road. I'm going to book this in. Now with this one, let's say that the agent can't do Wednesday at all and they can only do Thursday. Now obviously, you might not want to do 2 days depending on how far you have to drive. In this case, let's say I don't mind driving for a second day. So I'll say, Thursday's not a problem. What time can you do? And because I haven't got any other viewings booked in on Thursday, I can really select any time here. It doesn't matter, depending on when I want to leave. So let's say we book it for midday. Excellent. Now, because I've booked that for Thursday and I'm currently on Wednesday, what it's going to ask you here is whether you want to move the remaining unbooked properties to the day you've just selected, which is Thursday. So this is really great if you manage to book a couple of viewings in for the day of your choice, and then one of the agents says, I can't do that day, can you do another day? And you decide to do that day, but you want to move all of the other ones you haven't booked as well to the day which you're now having to do that viewing on. So in this case, this last remaining suggested viewing down here, I'm going to move to Thursday as well, because then at least I'm doing 2 viewings and I get to get home a bit earlier on Wednesday. So we'll move that. So now Wednesday is done. Those are all booked in. It's telling me that I'll get home at 3:30. So let's now go over to Thursday. And you can see here the dots indicating that there are viewings on those days. Okay, so just like we had to do with Wednesday, you have to choose a starting point and when you want to arrive. So because we've already put in Bristol on the other one, it's just suggesting that we do Bristol again. So I'm just going to say use Bristol. And now I've got my viewing planner here. Now what's happening here is I've said that I want to arrive at 10. So it's put this one in at 10, but this one I actually booked for 12 o'clock. So there's a lot of time wasted just waiting between these viewings. So instead what I can do is say that I want to arrive a bit later. So if I do 11:30, this one's going to move down and it's going to become a lot more compact and a lot more time efficient. And it's still telling me I need to leave it around 10 o'clock in order to make this viewing at 11:30. So if I phone up Hampton Court Road and I try and book this one in at 11:30, let's say they can't do 11:30, so we can go down here. What times can you do? Because I've only got one other viewing here, any other time isn't going to be time efficient because it's going to have to just be waiting around between those viewings. So, I'm going to push for 12:25, 12:30 maybe, but anything beyond that, it's just going to take too long. But in this case, let's say they can do 12:30, so that's excellent. So that's been rearranged down there. I've got my 2 viewings booked in, and if we go back to Wednesday, I've got all of my viewings booked in here. Perfect. Okay, so that was a quick overview of how the viewing planner works. We went through going through our interested list of properties, adding them to the viewing planner. PropertyEngine then suggests the times that we booked those viewings for, and then we went ahead and we actually booked those times in. And like I showed you earlier, you can do group viewings really easily. You can book different times depending on when the agents can do. All of that is possible. You can also click on the names of the properties here and it will bring up the details about that property. So when you're on the phone, you've got all of the information you need right in front of you. And that is the power of PropertyEngine. It's presenting you with all of the data you need to make informed decisions, whilst giving you the tools like this to help organize your time and save you time. So I hope this video has been helpful. There's going to be more of these to come, but this is just the first one that I wanted to do to show you how to use the viewing planner. But we've got a load of exciting new features coming up over the weeks, which I'll be putting out more videos on soon. So I hope that was useful, and I'll see you next time.